I now like to call the September 11th Parks and Recreation Advisory Board meeting to order. Can we please start with the roll call?
Yes. Aaron Angel will not be here today. Scott Conlon.
Present.
Thomas Davis.
Yeah.
Paige Lewis will be here shortly. Sam Libby.
Here.
Nicholas Novella.
Here.
Dan Olson will not be here. And Tim Waters.
Here.
Okay. Let's move on to the approval of the agenda. Does anyone have any questions or changes to the agenda that was in the packet? If not, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. 4 out of 4. Okay, moving on to approval of previous month's minutes. Does anyone have any questions or request changes to the meeting minutes from last month? If not, can I have a motion to approve previous month's minutes?
Sure, I'll move we approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
Second.
Second, and all in favor? All right, all 4. Great. Okay, do we have public invited to be heard?
We do not.
We do not. Oh, awesome. No public to be heard. I'm going to move into old business in just a second, but since Paige is here, we call it. I don't know if this is against the bylaws.
It's not going to take very long for either one of these.
That's true. Well, we'll see. There might be some discussion.
We don't pretend to be a conversation, we'll just sit back.
Right, yeah. Taking a brief hiatus. Quick time out here.
I thought you were just adjourning the meeting as soon as she walked in.
And we're adjourned. Okay.
Bang the gavel.
No, this is. I want to adjourn early in our first fall meeting.
Sure feels that way.
Hey.
Great meeting.
Yeah, so we're adjourning now. No, it's teasing. So we just finished a public invite to be heard. We do not have anyone here. So we're going to move into old business. When you're ready.
Ready.
Okay, let's move on to old business. So the library, recreation, and culture. Jeff, are you going to give the update? Dennis. Okay. Sorry.
Well, there's not much of an update. There's not a whole lot we can talk about. We are, we have received some information on the factual information that we'll be able to give out. We've received it to get feedback. So we've done that, given some feedback. So we're kind of waiting for that to happen. I believe we have a meeting scheduled for Thursday, if I'm not mistaken, to talk about kind of what we can talk about based on that and how we would respond to questions. So I'm looking forward to having some of that. And other than that, I think everyone knows where we stand. We're out there for ballot right now.
I've just add that Ben and I as staff have been invited to, I think it's 4, got 3 and then backstory. So 4 different 5 with the one you just talked about. So 5 events where we've been invited to come and give factual information about the recreation ballot question.
And the one on the 30th, Jeff can't go that day, but I will be able to be at that one.
Okay.
Saturday the 30th.
Any questions about that? ballot?
What, if you're asked, and I don't know, I would have an answer to this question, I don't know if it's the right answer, so check it. To the question, so if this fails, what's the future of Centennial Pool?
I think that is a great question, because if the question fails, there is no resource to, repair the pool, and we'll have to, limp along like we have, but we're not gonna be able to do that for, I would say, no more than 3 years. And, we'll probably have to go to another ballot question to either revisit that or look at closing it down.
Because the estimated cost was 23 million.
Bill's brand
If we
new.
were gonna just do the pool, it's gonna be $23 million.
Yes.
For $8 million, it was gonna be just the sport court. The loss of the pool, sport court for $4 million is our share of what the whole package is.
Yeah.
At Centennial. I just don't think there's been enough conversation about, and hopefully it comes during these sessions, about, so what if this fails? We know what the implications are on the west side of town. There's nothing.
Yeah.
But I don't think we've talked enough about what the implications are at Centennial. I think there's an assumption on the part of too many people that if you don't do if this fails, somehow we're gonna continue to patch that up or hold that together. And I just think people ought to know that's unlikely. Yeah.
And I think you've hit on something that the city really isn't saying a whole lot right now. And I know that we can't be advocating one way or another, but I think it would be good, and that's part of our conversation for Thursday, is to start talking about what is included, why we're trying to do it, and give at least the background information. Again, with no agenda of trying to ask people to vote in favor or against it, but just to get as much information out there as possible. And I think interacting with some of the advocacy groups, I think they would say that that's a shortfall right now.
Just so this group goes, I'm gonna interview Jeff on the 25th of September. I mentioned this to Scott. I host a program for Longmont Public Media that nobody watches. Although Scott said maybe he watched once.
I'm one of those 68.
Very few. But it's storytelling about what's going on in Longmont. This is an important story. So Jeff and Harold and John Solomon, the panel. I mentioned to Scott, when people show up, we have a live audience. It's a live program that gets replayed. And we typically give people a chance to ask questions if they're in the audience. And I'm only going to ask questions that are factual in nature. This would be one of them. Jeff, what do you think would be the future of the pool if this doesn't pass?
Right.
But audience members could ask other questions. Whether they can't answer, I might. Or reframe it in a way that's a factual question. So if anybody's interested in being there, because you get a chance to raise questions that might give us a chance to expand what the understanding would be, you're invited. So, if you're not doing anything at 6 o'clock on the 25th, and then you're gonna run right over to the.
Yeah, right now, it's full on
Right after
that.
that.
So,
Where is that?
Longmont Public Media.
I don't know where it is.
It's the Carnegie Building, north end of the library. Or Carnegie Annex, I guess, to the library.
What's the program called?
The backstory.
The backstory.
Yeah.
Will you be able to share once you talk about what you can talk about, will you be able to share that with the board?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
there'd be
absolutely.
like talking points or fact sheet or something, because I think that would be really helpful.
Yep, absolutely.
And you're meeting Thursday.
So we would expect to see the final draft by then.
That would be great, just so the board can share the same messages.
But like Jeff said, I think our goal would be to see that information dispersed as much as possible. And we've certainly seen, boards of information at our facilities in the past for various ballot questions that involve exactly what we're talking about, factual information, so.
Will this thing do that? I mean, like, would you put?
We have.
a factual just poster, here's what's on the ballot for recreation and post that in the recreation facilities.
Yes.
I thought would be useful too.
Mhm.
I mean, as long as it's not just the ballot language, which isn't.
No,
Very
I think
accessible.
it'll take from the flyer that will be mailed out to every household.
Is there, just with regard to the rec center location, is there someone in transportation that's like a key contact for people that have questions about the transportation, parking related issues for that site?
I'd say Phil Greenwald would probably be the person.
That's who I refer people to.
I can get you his contact information.
And he would be able to participate in public meetings just like you guys, right?
Yeah, he would have to follow the same.
Right, but he could be invited.
Yes.
Other questions from the board? Yeah, Scott?
I have a few that I'll try.
Yeah.
So, earlier on, Harold and others, I think both of you had said that there was gonna be a memorandum of understanding between the city and the Y addressing, the naming of the facility, pricing of the facility. There was a number of, city council members, who voiced, the concern that even with the, higher pricing, the city pass wouldn't make the Y facility, as equitable. Has any of that been put together yet?
No, it's not finalized yet.
Okay. Is the goal to get that done before November?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Is it goal to get that done before the 25th?
Right,
So I can ask that question.
that's an important
I
question.
I will check on that.
Because that's gonna be big.
Yeah, because as part of that too, it would be interesting because the ballot language has like a list of things that the Y would include, and so that would be a one way to hold the Y accountable for their $12 million in the land swap. But I could see that there's a lot more details that have been discussed. There's not really in the ballot language that I know is the intention of council and staff to have them also do, and so it would be good that that is all outlined as well. So, and then I guess my other question was just timelines. Like, let's say if we pass in November, it seems like there's gonna be still more public hearings to finalize what the design is. But what is what would the construction timeline look like?
Well, we've kind of imagined this out a little bit. If it did pass, that if we were able to get on it very quickly, that becomes an RFP. You can see that if we get it out. Of course, you're right around the holidays, which is always a joy with those sorts of things. But you can see getting into picking January into February, mobilization late February to March, and then you get a period of public feedback, public meetings, looking at actual design. So well beyond what we previously had looked at in feasibility study. And so, imagine April, May, and then into get some designs, then we have to go through the approval process, which 6 months. Did you talk about with that with the city?
It could be that long, but
So, that maybe puts us into late fall of next year to look to break ground, right?
yeah. And
There's
one of the things I would just say is that David and Stephanie have just gone through a process of design build, and the city seems to be very interested in how well that's working, and that might be something that we could consider as well. My thought is that based on if everything went well, late 25, early 26 is when the facility would open. And I think the Y might be right around that same timeline, and of course it really depends on when they can get their commitment for tax support to build the housing part of the.
Tax credits.
Yeah.
Right. So, okay, that's great. Sales tax though starts January 1, 2025. I mean, are we accruing sales tax for a year before we actually are employing?
You know, I don't, that's what I read, I thought, but I don't know, you know, if Jim knows the timeline of when we might get started, so I will verify that and get back to everybody with his response.
Okay.
Because it doesn't seem to make sense that we would need to be collecting sales tax until the facility was ready to open, but maybe there's something that he knows that I don't know about that.
We'll find that out.
It's a good question. We haven't had that conversation. The only sales tax I think that would start immediately, honestly, would be the library. Funding at the preferred level, which that language has particular meaning in terms of their feasibility study. If that question passes. Yeah, I'd be surprised if we start collecting the sales tax until we were ready to staff it.
Which is somewhat before the facility opens. So by staffing training, I would think there'd be some period of time, which, that's not, that's a great question.
Yeah, if I remember right, we opened the Longmont Rec Center in March, and I think we started hiring staff that October before then.
Oh, okay.
You said that we need like 6 months of approvals at some point. Is that building permits, utility permits, those kind of things?
And the design review to make sure all of the different components of the design of the building are addressed and meet city code. You know, stormwater, getting power there, all of those kinds of things.
Are there a lot of external approvers, like I'm thinking of utilities or nobody else who's providing services there that could be holding that up?
Excel would be a part of that, but they're usually rolled into that development review committee work.
Does it get more complicated if the library gets passed, or is it less complicated?
I don't know. Depends on what chair you're sitting.
Right, yeah.
Could be interesting in my chair if that happens, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, for you.
Right, I mean, assuming that there's basically then kind of two groups of the public that want to.
Yeah, but my thought would be that at that point, maybe we link our design build together so that we're all working towards the same cause and the same dates, rather than starting to develop some type of competition that might go between the library and recreation. That we don't want to do that.
If we're building a connected facility, certainly think we'll design it and build it together.
Because
I can't imagine doing it in that way.
my goal is it's not just connected, but that we have some interplay between the staff and not having to have multiple desks that we have to staff. John Solomon, who's the library director, really is interested in not having people have to go and stand at an area to check out books anymore. That he wants people that are rotating around the different floors, that you could walk up to them and say, hey, I want to check this book out, and all the staff have the device, you do it and you're on your way. So lots of different things to talk about, but if they both pass, I think we can share some of the amenities without recreation and the library having to both build things, so that we ultimately can provide more to our community.
Is that an opportunity for like cross training across parks and library? Is that kind of where we're heading with that, or not really?
Potentially, I think
Okay.
it's something we've talked about a couple times, that there's a perfect world of that. And it's hard to get to, but certainly worth exploring.
And you know, we're in a unique situation. About a year ago, recreation, golf, the library, and the museum were all put under one department. John Solomon, again, the library director, comes from an experience where the library and recreation were both together in Inglewood, so he has kind of that background. So I think it works well for what we're looking at doing.
I haven't heard anything about the other ballot initiatives. Are people out there talking about them?
I know that Arts and Entertainment they kicked off their campaign a week ago or 2 weeks ago, so I know that they're starting to work on that. I believe the library it's in a difficult spot because I don't know that they've had an advocacy group step forward, but I think that there's a potential that the library friends might step up and play that role.
Festival on Main, the LSO was kind of like de facto talking about the art center as well.
Oh, were they?
Who
Yeah.
was?
The Longmont Symphony Orchestra.
Oh.
The board member is one of the three key people for their, the board chair, I forget his name is, unfortunately. He is one of the three committee chair people for the advocacy group too.
Okay.
That's Robert Steve Cookie. Is that Steve Cookie? Scott?
Yes. Yeah.
Any other questions?
I would just say that if you're out and about and you have questions that come up and you're not sure how to answer, you could certainly reach out to Ben and I and we can get you that information.
Great. Yeah, I think it'd be really helpful to have your fact sheet and frequently asked questions. Yeah.
Let's just say one more thing. If on the 25th this interview goes well, if he is really compelling with his answers to my questions or yours, wouldn't be bad for everybody to post a link to that interview on everybody's social media platform, right? I mean, that's a way to really, kind of expand at least the messaging, whether people are as responsible as Scott and actually clicking on it, that's a different question.
Well,
But
I just click on it just to say that.
well,
No, just kidding.
but it would be a missed opportunity. I mean, there'll be other opportunities as well, but.
Yeah.
Anyway, think about that. I'll send it to you all and then.
Yeah.
Right.
So do you, if we as a board want to do a resolution of support for ballot initiative, that's something I think you have language for, right?
That's this next.
It was the next item and
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I glanced at these.
Yeah.
While I was in the car.
there in your packet was also the proposed resolution, and if you have comments or thoughts about it.
Page 6.
Do you want to move on to that? Is that that's all the update?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so we're ready to talk about the resolution.
And so just related to that, so if we pass a resolution, it gets communicated to council, can the board also like write a letter to the editor saying we passed this resolution and I mean, it's still not totally clear to me what we as a board
I don't
can
think
do.
you can.
I mean, we can say we support it,
I
right?
don't think you can. I think if you're going to write a letter, it needs to be as an individual, not as a board member. Which kind of defeats the purpose of even doing the resolution, because you can't, there's not a lot you can do with it.
You could cite it though, and Matt from the Times Call probably, I mean, if you give him the link, he probably republish it or
Okay.
parts of it. I have a comment on that resolution.
Yeah, please.
I would like to add in line, I think it's line 2-ish of page 7, is that the Y is proposing indoor-outdoor lap pool. That basically look and feel like, what they have in Lafayette and is, more in keeping with what, like, Sunset Pool is, so.
Suggest just adding that indoor/outdoor into that level.
Any questions about that?
Is the design that it's gonna be the removable bubble like Lafayette, or a mix somehow?
Retractable roof is
Okay.
what they'd like to do rather than the bubble, because it costs them too much.
Sounds good to me. I had a question about, in the very first part talks about the number of visitors served each year, and that Longmont has 100,000 residents and we've outgrown the current rec center. Is there a measurement of that we can add somehow, like we're at, 120% of capacity, or there's no real way to add
No,
that
there's
to it?
really not a way to do
We're
that.
just saying we have outgrown it.
Yes. And, the new rec, or the rec center opened in 2002, and within 3 or 4 years of it opening, people were complaining about how busy it was. And, because there's so many different nuances of the pool could be really busy one day, the fitness area another day, there's really not a way to, because we could take 1,600 people a day and not have issues with that.
Do you know, it says was built in 2002, serving 450,000 visitors. But then it talks about Longmont's population of 100,000 residents.
Mhm.
I think it's kind of confusing. Do you know what the residents, what the population of Longmont was in 2002? Could we
No,
find
we
that
could
out?
find
It
that,
could
yeah.
just, so you could highlight the
We find out
population
2000,
growth,
maybe not 2000.
Yeah.
either that or could we add like how many visitors you're serving now?
Just
That is the
450,000.
that is the now number.
It's
Yeah, so
confusing, to your point.
it's,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe the sentence is a little confusing because it said,
Because it implies that we're serving 450,000 in 2002 instead of.
Right.
yeah, maybe
So-
that,
2002, then 100,000, then 450,000.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So
that-
it was
yeah,
built
that-
in 2002 when Longmont's population was X.
Yeah,
And then Longmont's population
That's
is
what I
now
was-
surpassed 100,000 residents, we're serving 450,000 visitors.
And we might want to use the 1999 population because that's when the vote was.
Sure.
Yeah, I
Except to say
think
when it was approved then.
the point is like that Longmont has changed a lot.
The feasibility study didn't include any recreation facility per capita,
Well,
like the library study did.
the National Parks and Recreation, National Recreation and Parks Association has a standard of one recreation facility for every 30,000 people that you have in your community. So we're really one short with that calculation.
What was that? Can you say it?
One for every 30,000 people.
how do they determine that if one's 60,000 square feet, the other one's gonna be 90,000?
That's
That's
just a general thing. It doesn't get to that level of the
And
digest.
what was the organization?
The NRPA, National Recreation and Park Association.
It does look like we've added at least 30,000 people since 1999, according to some census data. So
What was the number then?
I was 72,245.
That's a question. If we're making suggestions to the language, you'll bring a new draft back next month to approve.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Well, good with that.
Do we want to, is there any way we can approve it like via email
Yeah,
or?
just
That's why I'm just concerned if we
Right.
want to change that.
Say
with
we
it.
make these
Any
changes
word that
and then go
changes?
forward.
You could approve it tonight with the changes we discussed.
okay.
That's fine. So I need to record those.
Yeah.
Okay, so wait, let me Scott, the change you proposed was,
Page 7,
Line
line
two.
2, adding indoor/outdoor before lap pool.
page 7, line 2, okay. I know you're taking notes too, but I'm just trying to do extra.
More notes to go.
So I think, my suggestion is that we change on page
6, line 12.
6, line 12, we change that to say, whereas the city's recreation center was approved
And then
in 1999 when Longmont's population was
72,000.
72,000. And whereas
Longmont has surpassed their goals.
Longmont has now surpassed 100,000 residents, is serving 450,000 visitors each year for recreation, and has outgrown the current
That's good.
recreation center.
Yes.
I didn't write that down, so I hope you.
We got it, yeah.
Okay,
You don't mind me jumping in there?
yes, please, go ahead.
So, well, I guess there's two things. First one is not specifically on the ballot, but it's a question that people ask all the time and it's been in discussion as the silent third piece of the ballot measure is the $5 million of renovation to the existing recreation center. Do we want to include that as part of that reinvestment in the current Longmont recreation center? That $5 million helps to prolong its life and update its use for residents.
Stewardship of the city's money.
Right.
Yep.
So that'll be after the Y topics, before the,
You
Now
can
they're
put
formed?
it
Yeah,
in
probably.
line 5 though. I mean,
Yeah,
Five
or after the
page.
Y topics.
on page, well, I'm just thinking about the header. If
So
you,
the header is,
That's the.
that's the ballot.
Oh, that's
is
the-
Ballot question.
no, a resolution of the Longmont.
Yeah, but I don't think we wanna alter that at all.
Oh, I see. So the funding for the current rec center is not in the ballot language? So it's not that simple, just, No, I know there's
Yeah.
a, but.
so there's a twist. So several years ago, council approved a recreation impact fee. That impact fee is much like the park impact fee, that every time a new house is built, a certain amount of money goes into that fund. It can only be used to do recreation or leisure type facilities. There's right now, and it's estimated that by the end of the year, there'll be $4.9 million in that. But that money cannot be used for existing programs, it has to go to new programming. So what is being proposed is that $4.9 million would go to the new recreation center, and $4.9 million or $5 million of what was funded in the ballot question would be used in place to do the improvements at the Longmont Recreation Center. That way we're using the funds as is defined in the impact fee. So the challenge with that is, how do you explain that to the general public where it doesn't look or sound weird? It's a hard thing for people to comprehend.
I think most people don't really care about the super detail of the fund swap.
Right.
I think they are more concerned with, we're doing something with the existing rec center, right? We're not moving on to a new shiny object.
Without taking care of
Yeah.
it. Right, and just I think we've talked about this, but just so everybody's aware, we would really update the painting throughout the building. We would add a new large water slide feature in the leisure pool for younger kids. It would be basically a playground in the leisure pool that would have multiple components to it where kids could get wet, young and older. It would do a renovation of the locker rooms. If you've been in there, each one of the lockers has those small bays. We would open that up so that you could really change in there without having to worry about somebody else being in the bay with you and it being uncomfortable. We would also renovate the showers. Right now we have all gang showers, 6, 7 people, 8 people in a shower at a time. That really is not how people want to shower anymore. So we would convert that to individual showers that would be provide some privacy. That also helps provide comfort for all users of our facility. Because at some point in time, we're probably not gonna have male locker rooms and female locker rooms anymore. There'll just be locker rooms and each person will have their own private area to shower, dress, change, whatever they're doing. And then finally, the recreation center has some pretty significant groundwater issues and we need to get those addressed. So those are the items we would do with $5 million. And
Trying to utilize the lobby in a more active way. It's a large area could do that. It could accommodate some more. Of course, the money's gonna run out.
But more cardio equipment.
Cardio, spreading, being able to spread some things out. Allowing some room for more functional training in some different areas by spreading things out.
So could we I'm just thinking about that statistic that or the recommendation you said, would it be possible for us to add a whereas before line 16 on page 6 that says, basically, whereas the National Recreation and Parks Association recommends communities have a recreation facility to serve every 30,000 people. Semicolon, and then go to the whereas staff brought forth a feasibility study to the city council showing the need for a new recreation center, and then
What would be the wording, Jeff, that might work, that addresses this issue of updates to the current rec center? Whereas updates to the current rec center have been deferred pending new resources or something. But to acknowledge work in there, that's going to be that. That doesn't show up anyplace.
So can we do that after the Y? Maybe
probably
page 7, 18, line 18 thereabouts. And I will get some wording on that, and I guess I would ask you to trust that I'll word that right.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a list. I don't think we
Yeah.
have all those things. It's that
We're gonna invest $5 million in the
could you say that
updating of the Longmont Rec Center.
passing this ballot initiative would facilitate the city's ability to invest?
I think we'll have to get some advice on
On
I
that
think because
part.
that's what it does, right? It makes it possible for you to use that money
Yes,
to update the.
yes.
That fund is still growing, correct, or not? Like,
Yes.
so we should use language that gives you the flexibility to say like, oh, it doesn't cap you at $5 million, or it doesn't matter, yeah.
No, but
Okay.
I think the commitment is $5 million of that.
Oh,
That whatever accrues after that would be used for whatever the next thing is.
Sure.
And we'll run this by Paige, all of this, and then make sure she's okay with it, if that works for everybody. That way, we don't get in an issue with open meetings.
So on page 8, is there anything that we could add before the end of that sentence that references so we say the board supports the ballot issue approving funding of recreation facilities, including construction of the rec center, partnership with Y, recreation facility landscape, and
Oh, yeah.
the associated upgrades.
Renovations.
Upgrades to the, whatever language you find, can you add it there too?
And everybody understands the land swap is a specific question that has to be approved, because we're gonna be taking some park land.
What happens if the ballot initiative, like, this passes, but the land swap piece
I
doesn't
think
pass?
it's all in one question, so it
Oh,
cannot,
okay.
it's either we're all good
That
or
makes
we're
it
all
better.
bad.
I was like,
Yeah.
but wait.
And so today was the date that county gets back to the city. Do they?
I have not heard anything, but I heard the numbering was gonna be available today. So if that is the case, I will let you know that.
Okay, that's good. That's really things
We got that notice late Friday afternoon, but I have not heard that
Okay.
they delivered.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean,
What are you
to,
hoping for, Scott?
well, no, just to have that number, people on committees need them to use it to print things. It's a lot easier than saying the recreation question.
Right.
It's yes on whatever that number and letter is.
I think it's 3,
3 is usually
but
one.
but I don't know what order A, B, and C is.
It'd be great if it was A, but yeah. But I don't think they can change the order.
Yeah.
Can I just say one more thing before, so on page 8, no, page 7, line 2, can we just do the indoor, outdoor before lot pool, similar to the,
That is the one.
oh, that is the
yes.
one you
That
did?
is the one,
Okay.
yep.
Alright, sorry, I'm scrolling through it. Place.
And retractable is, I think, more appealing than the bubble.
Yeah.
Because if you have a bad day in the summer, you close the roof and you don't have to close down.
Yeah, exactly, on storms and
Yeah.
sunsets.
It is pretty cool how they do that pool and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, 'cause
But it
they were-
becomes
I was there the other day and they had the whole weight room and everything, like they can open or close the doors to that too, and so people working out in the weight room. Kind of open air.
Which is in the new rec center, something that would be an option as well. To be able to work out in the, what I'm gonna call the deck, I don't know if that's the official name.
That's a great name for it.
Is it, I mean, I don't know how this works in David, you might actually know this, but you know, I know GoCook sometimes provides funding for recreation facilities. Like, would the city, if this passes, would the city still be able to apply for any grant funding for aspects of the recreation center? Like, say you wanted to propose doing, you know, more indoor, outdoor that would, you know, go into kind of outdoor programming? Like, I don't know how that.
I would guess you could, but I think if you get $72 million to build a facility, my guess is they're not going to do that. They would fund things that would support or add to what we've proposed.
Yeah, I don't think anything disqualified, but being competitive, I think would be the hard part.
So are there any other proposed changes or concerns with language in the resolution?
I have one more.
Yeah, go ahead, Sam.
I was gonna suggest that we just move the Centennial facility being in need of repair up above the YMCA. You guys are interested in
Like a
that?
needs.
Like the first thing should be the pool is failing and there's no good solution to it. And the Y has offered to provide a way to fix this. It's kind of buried in the middle right now.
Yeah.
So I was gonna suggest we move lines 9 and 10 before line 1 on page 7. You guys are into that?
That makes sense.
I think line 11, did you say 11, 9, 10, and 11?
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
9, 10, 11, 12, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Line starting with 9, 10, so.
Let's start with, yeah.
I know there's a lot of questions about Centennial, so yeah, up front.
Yeah.
For all those thousands of people that will read this.
Well, it can be posted.
We'll get it out there. That's all I have.
Okay, and Scott, you had one more?
I do, but it may be the question outside the wording specific of this, because, council hasn't talked about it more, as well, is that, again, the, it would be 7 line, 16, whereas city pass holders would gain entry to special pass holder rates for access. The question I had for Paige earlier, and we kind of discussed this, what would it cost to buy up rates? North Longmont is a number of residents have voiced their concern to us about not having a rec center. This the Y is basically kind of a third rec center that is quasi city rec center with our investment in it. But if they have to pay a higher rate to go to use the local rec center in their neighborhood or in their part of town, they're probably not going to feel that way, right? They're going to feel like the people in Southwest Longmont got a better deal than the people around Centennial Pool. I can't imagine applying 450,000 residents to $5. That seems to be a huge number to say that that's what we would buy up. But I don't know what the difference in there that council would be comfortable with or staff would be comfortable with to make it more equitable.
Are you talking about outside the election?
Yeah, this is outside the election, because this question isn't part of the election at all.
Right.
And it's part of how people
So-
are deciding.
What do we give the Y, city pay the Y to provide that service every year?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I don't know what that number is. But we can look at that. and
Is that
talk with
part
the
of
Y.
what would be in the MOU negotiation, or no?
No, because we're negotiating, as we know right now. If we were to say, and I'm just gonna throw a number out, it's gonna take $250,000 to get it where city pass holders wouldn't have to pay anymore. That's a whole budget process that city council would have to approve, and I don't know what that number is. One of the challenges of the $12 million and how to come up with a fee is that the $12 million really goes to build the new facility.
Right.
So even if, let's just say that the Y wasn't a part of this and it was just the city doing it, the 12 million would pay for that. We would still, just like we're gonna do at the new rec center, have to set fees to be able to pay for the operation of it. The Y has to recover 100 plus. Recreation is at 80%. So that, the rec center will always have some type of tax support. The Y doesn't have the ability to do that. So they have to set fees at a rate that covers their whole operation. And I think people forget or don't understand that $12 million doesn't do anything to help with day one of opening. It just gets you to day one.
Right, yeah.
And so that's a real challenge. And really the only way to make it equal would be the city would have to write some type of check to the Y on top of the $12 million that's already committed.
Right. I mean, I was on transportation board when we decided to buy up fares at RTD, but we didn't increase the street tax to do it, right? It became a commitment experiment for 1 year and then became, well, you know what, we're actually putting more people on the bus on a regular basis. So it's a neighborhood that, is less served. And so price is a bigger concern. I mean, really the proposed rates are basically doubling the seniors' rates if they're there for a month. They go there on a regular basis.
I would, weigh in?
Yeah.
We have the
Because I'm gonna argue with you. Get ready for back.
Yeah, that's something we can talk about.
The CARES program, right, with the acronym, I would have to go back and reconstruct in my head, but how we subsidize, whether it's utilities or, other costs that folks in the community are challenged with. It's not like we don't do that now. You could add a council could very easily give direction to staff, or the staff could bring a proposal and say, we want to add that feature to what we already do at this cost, right, or this amount of money, at this funding level. And in order to participate, residents submit, I know it's an application, but they submit information, they have to qualify, right? Which I would assume there'd be some kind of means testing if we're going to subsidize this. But Scott, I think that's where it's already set up to do this. It would just be a matter of the council saying, add this and come back with a proposal. We want to know that we're successfully addressing, whatever those costs are going to be. Even if they have to earmark something in terms of out of the general fund beyond whatever the fee structures are now. The other thing I would add to this, for me, it took a while to understand how I might have any voice in the budgeting process, right? And what I did learn is you want your voice into that process no later than the first week in April. So whoever chairs this board, make a note to self, first week in April, you got to have your budget recommendations in. Now, I don't know that PRAB has ever, as a group, offered budget recommendations, and I don't think you're asked to do that. If I was on the other side of the table, I wouldn't wait to be asked, right? I've never been asked. That doesn't mean I haven't submitted my recommendations the first week in April, which I do, because the first meeting in May is when Jim or whoever, assuming Jim's still there, Jim Golden will present his budget parameters, right? That always happens now, the first meeting in May. If you want to have your recommendations in far enough in advance that Harold and Jim and everybody else would know, these fellows would know, somebody from this group is going to be there to ask questions. Nobody ever comes and asks a question. Honestly, from the public, we spend $450 million yearly. Nobody asks a question. If I was on your side of the table, I'm still curious how we got the additional FTE this year, which is a great thing.
This end of the room is ordering that same thing.
But it was fun to see some additional FTE in Parks and Natural Resources for 2024, because that was a bone of contention a year ago. So I would not miss that opportunity, specifically on this issue of nothing else, right? You have a recommendation to make, you ought to make it, and you ought to make it in early April of 2024 for the 2025 budget.
Thank you.
Can't argue that. You
didn't say it. I said it.
Yeah.
It's on the record.
Yeah.
I think to what you're saying, Scott, also it should be noted that the YMCA has a significant scholarship program. That they have varying rates for folks that, based on their own criteria. I can't address those, I don't know those, but they have a high percentage of the population that goes there do not pay their full fee in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So that should be noted also.
Anything else? Okay, so
That is my biggest concern with the whole thing. I think the Y building is a great opportunity for our community. How do we balance it where pass holders, whether from the Y or the city, don't have to pay more money than they're already paying?
And yeah, when I wrote the page, I was just going to stick it to the ice people because they're getting a whole facility and nobody else has ice anywhere else in the city, so just make them pay more than their share. And
I'm sure she'd like that.
I'm not an ice skater, so.
The one sport that has really sharp things.
Okay, I didn't hear any disagreement about any of the proposed edits, so
No.
I think based on that, I would welcome a motion that we approve the resolution including the proposed amendments.
I'll move that we approve resolution R-2023
One.
-1, missing but -1, as provided in the staff packet with the amendments discussed and recorded by the board chair.
All those in
Second.
favor? Yeah, second. All those in favor? All right, it's unanimous. Thank you.
Thanks for drafting that.
Thanks
rule.
for, yeah, thanks for drafting the language.
We're good.
Okay. We don't have any other old business. No new business, so any items from the packet, any questions on the items in the packet?
I have several.
Yes.
The Boston Avenue Bridge contract is awarded, sounds like. We know when closure will start? It says they're
It's supposed to
preparing,
be this week, and I do have an update to respond to all of the questions that were last month. I don't know if you want me to do that now.
let's do it.
I'll go, yeah, I'll say, Paige, you mind, I think, when we did put the agenda together, Jeff had his stuff on there, Paige's like, well, what are you guys doing, David? And I'm like, we'll have some updates
That'd be
from
great.
the packet and stuff, so if you guys don't mind, if I just want to do that right
Yeah,
now, it'd be
please.
great.
I just did it in PowerPoint because it's easy. I can do PowerPoint. So it's basically a PowerPoint I put together to share with our transportation engineering team with all of the questions that came last month. And so what I've done is capture. So I'm just gonna go down this list and we'll touch on a little bit of everything. So one of the questions that came in was how to potentially detour the route to the north, potentially going through Bowen Circle in lieu of Price Park to Boston, just due to the safety issue of going around that corner. When I reached out to staff, they did explain that whenever they have a detour, assigned detour, it does have to be accessible to all trail users, and so that includes pedestrians, and they have to have sidewalks. Because of that, they cannot do assigned detour on Bowen Circle, but they said, it's a public street, and cyclists can certainly use it. Now, obviously, if you're the first time on the trail, you're not gonna know to go there. But if you're a frequent cycler, there's nothing that says that you can't. They are looking at putting in, here's the, this is a blow up area, the crosswalk. They are looking at putting in the LED enhanced blinking signs at this crosswalk. They are also going to be, once it goes under construction, which is supposed to be in the coming weeks. I know that the equipment is supposed to be moving out there. I drove by today and I didn't see any equipment yet. But then this entire length of Boston, from Price to Sunset, will be a 25-mile-per-hour construction zone. So they're also going to have that element to it, so slowing the cars down. The LED enhanced blinking signs are not a definite, but they're looking into what it would take. I know that there's some power component and whatnot, but that team is looking at that. So that was their feedback on the north route. Can I go to the next slide and then we can circle back with questions if you like? Sure. So then on the south route, so here I'm just showing the south portion from St. Vrain going down Sunset to Nelson over to Price Road. And the request was, could we re-sign it to go this direction, down Boston, along the river, and then down St. Francis? It's the same comment as the other. It needs to have a sidewalk to be an accessible trail for all trail users. This is also going to be a part of the construction area with heavily controlled traffic patterns. That was their response. I can't go any further as to what that means. But I did hear that they're not gonna actually close the bridge at any point. So I think it's just gonna be a lot of ever-changing logistics based on the phase that they're on.
They're not closing the bridge at any point, is that? Oh.
No, that's the plan, is to keep it open in some
That's
way,
news,
shape, or
right?
form.
Yes, it's the same contractor that did Sept Parkway.
I thought it was always going to be closed, but no, okay.
I had thought that as well.
Yeah, okay.
So having said that, Boston, you can still go down, I don't know what that's gonna look like through, how a bicycle would merge with the traffic, through that construction zone, but it's not gonna be assigned route, assigned detour from the city. There weren't any other, there really weren't any other opportunities for improvement along the south portion. So I don't have as much good feedback to give on that piece of it. But if we continue down, we did talk about the lack of signage. And I did, once again, go around the route and took photos, and I said, well, there isn't any, there isn't any. And so they are looking at adding 27 additional signs. They're being fabricated right now. They'll look like this, but they'll be a diamond shape. And they're gonna be at all these locations that you see along this plan. So it's gonna clearly demarc the detour route from the beginning.
Kind of
to
line
the
of
end.
sight then, so you should be able to see the next one by the time.
Yeah, you're
you
here and
pass.
then you look up and you see, and so then you're continually going. I noticed when I was going around, you get here and you're like, well, where is it? You don't know where it is, and so they acknowledged that's an area they can improve. They're also installing flashers at this railroad crossing at Sunset. So that is something that is in progress and that will be coming in. And then the last piece of it was the train track. So this is zoomed out to show First Avenue and Bowen. And here's the area. It is a big gap. Unfortunately, it's not the city of Longmont. It's the BNSF railway that we need to make those improvements. So I have elevated it to our transportation team, who does interact with them for different crossing work, collaborates with them, but they can't promise that they can cause any, make any headway with Arlington Northern and Santa Fe to actually move that up in their schedule. But we have raised awareness with that piece. So I'll open it up for questions on those pieces.
Yeah, no, it's good. I appreciate it. This is because the spur line is super low priority. Last time we got improved was saying that it was out of plane. That's the legal requirement that they have to maintain. So all those timbers are below the plane of the tracks and the road, and so it becomes a priority if it's out of plane. So that was
That's good terminology. I'm making note of that. I don't let them know.
a hole also is out of plane. Whatever is down there. It's a piece, but yeah, and we definitely appreciate the big signs. I will gladly forego history on why we have little tiny signs.
Yeah,
Having bigger signs would be very
it is intentional with real nice big
Yeah,
signs.
exactly.
So I think
like
that's going to be a
pirate
improvement.
signs.
So
Well, just because we are only allowed to make them a certain size, and we were debating that we're going to make them slightly bigger. And
Once the construction starts, how long is it anticipated to take?
So they have the construction, in this area here, but then they have the levee for the Corps of Engineers up here. So once all is said and done and that trail reopens, it'll be most likely summer of 25.
What about, you said Boston Avenue won't close, how long will it take to?
This is, I think it's 18 months from the beginning. And then this is a little bit past that, because
So-
this one doesn't start construction until towards the end of the year.
So then after the bridge is done, can we open up the trail behind left hand so people can use that and then jump back on? Once they move up into the Isaac Reach, will that intersection allow for that section to
Well,
At least going the other way, not
This
this
way
way.
here, you
go
Yeah.
this way, right?
Well, this is a concern. There's only one detour until both projects are done. Is their current language.
well, and then they're going to be starting over here, work on the other side of Sunset. It just kind of keeps going, and it'll be a new detour.
But can we open that
Right.
part of the greenway and then rewrite the detour
Right.
for the
Based
last
on the new-
So
quote
if
unquote
you-
6 months, which would be
Yes.
like 12 months.
Exactly.
That's a good question.
Well, this,
Because the problem right now, right at that point at Boston Ave, I can already know that there isn't, unless the bridge comes with the adequate sidewalk connecting to a sidewalk, you couldn't detour and go out to Sunset. You would have to only detour and go the opposite direction, which is super counterintuitive. If someone came up the trail, so because we're not, even though I think we annexed the triangle, right? right? We're not gonna build the 40 feet of sidewalk with this bridge project. Sorry, it's a transportation issue, but it's, yeah, so. Okay.
What triangle are you talking
So
about?
I don't know what I just call it the triangle, Sunset, Boston Avenue, and, Creek Triangle, and
To river,
up further to your left.
That triangle.
So that triangle right there. I think that has now been annexed, into the city. And the sidewalks go about halfway, so just before you get to the entrance to Colorado Materials, the sidewalks stop. They were built when the intersection was rebuilt, like 15 years ago, but they don't match up to the bridge, with the idea that the bridge at some point was gonna be renovated. This was even pre-flood, and so there's this gap, between them, so that way you can't ever detour west. Right, this one.
That's the
why we're
challenge
gonna do
right
that
now,
detour, yeah. So even when that part is done, you still can't detour out to Sunset, which is what people would think you would want to go, because it's in the direction of the green light. You'd have to go backwards.
right, you'd have to go back on Boston and then rejoin.
Thanks for all the background on this.
Yeah, Stephanie, I was gonna say, since the last meeting,
Yeah.
I think what we got, Stephanie's done a lot, just pulled together internal work groups, external work groups, and has really kind of pushed people to look at this again.
Yeah,
It's very clear. All I was gonna add was like, this is the sidewalk along Price. There's like some pylons and, yeah, that's what they call it for the detour. That's what allows Price to use for a detour, is some pylons as a sidewalk. And so if there are other options to install similar pylons to make other sidewalks,
Exist.
that could be
Yeah,
done.
and that's beyond the sidewalk that they built, right?
This is the detour, this is the detour part, just south of the intersection of Price.
Yeah.
It stops
So-
down here, yeah.
Here's the, oh wait, I'm sorry, let me go over here. Let me go to that Google. That Google thing. Oh, what's that? Oh, it's the wrong computer. Okay. Got two computers in front of me.
Down where you were,
Yeah, before that turn.
right here. I was just saying that the sidewalk stops right here. And this is just pylon saying this is sidewalk, but that allows it to be used for detour.
Right.
It's not safe for
Right, and,
anything.
yeah.
Oh, you're saying right here where these white are, yeah.
Yeah, it's just, if we're saying sidewalks have to be there for detour, we can make sidewalks wherever we want, apparently.
And it may be, and so here, they made a comment that that's the, I don't know what the technical term, but it's like a gutter
Yeah.
between the parking lot and the
It's
street.
fine, yeah.
And so they were
it's fine.
really hesitant to encourage pedestrians there.
They made a detailed and passionate no, which I appreciate, rather than just like a no.
It's like, when you just make the sidewalk longer. Yeah.
And then the other update I was gonna give was the, on the Spring Gulch too.
Start on.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's supposed to, the construction equipment is supposed to come out this week. I tried to reach out to that project manager, he was out today, but I did drive out there too, and I haven't seen it yet. But it said starting this week, so, but it's the section from West County Road 26 all the way down to the underpass that exists.
Yeah.
So,
That's great. Yeah, we posted and then we instantly got like 5 people who rode their bikes out. And we're like, I don't see anything. I'm like, the week of the 11th.
Right.
Today's the 10th, for
Right.
one thing. People, no one's working on Sunday.
So, that's very exciting, and he said that that will be completed in July. So,
Wow.
then we'll have a really good
That's
activity.
Yeah, that's all when you liked it.
I only have one question, which is, what's the crossing like on County Road 26? By the reservoir?
That is, that accurate.
Will it be a crosswalk or a signed crosswalk or?
That's, I think it's.
I don't know, I'd have to ask Alden about that. I'll add that to my list of things for next month.
I wasn't here at last month's meeting, but I just thank you very much for doing this really clear, like, reply to the crowd's questions, and it seems
Absolutely.
very easy to understand, and I appreciate you reflecting what was asked and, you know, showing how you addressed it. That's super helpful, so thank you.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
That covered two of my three questions. My only other one was, I feel like last month we talked about at Union, a potential closure from E. coli testing,
So we,
but maybe it wasn't right.
it was a blip, we thought you could be a weather event, it could have been it's a bad lab result, we took it the next day, everything was back in line with that.
Zero.
It was like 0 the next day, so it could have been in Winnipeg or something, but again, we dealt with it that day, we tried to get as much signage as possible, it was again closer to the end of the season, and it wasn't a whole lot of impact to people. The beach is now closed, so.
My only question was, would that have, if it had not been a blip, would that have been on the website somewhere? I got to look the next day because I was going that weekend. I couldn't see the info about the
we're working
measurements
because
or
there's
anything like
a
that.
couple pieces there, we work with the water quality people, the rangers get information, we follow our internal sort of policies on how we close the beaches and stuff. Then information to the public, it was a good reason for us to evaluate how we push information out to the public, and it really doesn't fall on this group, it really is we can send that off to them and then they can put it out as they see fit. So, my recommendation is to put it out there immediately.
Okay. But it wasn't because it wasn't actually a problem.
It turned out not to be a problem.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks.
So it's on the same one, same instead, but it's about the clay soils for agriculture. Experience over the weekend was that a lot of people didn't know that the hill was going to go away. So I don't know if we have a couple dollars on the PR front. I know it's an unofficial sledding hill. Some parents were really excited because they've got kids who smash their faces into like berm or whatever that's there. But most were disappointed to know that it was going to go away. They thought it was intentional.
Now, I'll take that on. I thought there would be additional signage out there letting people know what was gonna happen.
This is a Dry Creek.
The dry creek.
At Dry Creek, that was going away. I thought there's supposed to be a sign with even a QR code on it.
And I don't know, I'll ask on that, but I do know that the hill is coming back. It's gonna be replaced, and then eventually the hill moves across the park.
Yeah, the thing is that in kiddom, any particular, like that's gonna probably be 3 winters of time between those two periods, right?
Steve did
Hopefully
say
building
a few
rec center.
times that they were gonna put signage.
Right.
So,
So yes, with him not being here, I'll take that on, ship all of that, so.
And did Isaac Walton 1 ever get passed? It says that it will get passed in Q2. On this, completion expected it says in Q2 on page 9. I'm assuming it has.
I'd have to look at the map, which.
That's the one.
Oh, so it's the one behind
It's
left
the
there.
other
Yeah.
one.
Because we had some certification issue with like a sprinkler head or something. I think it was.
I'm not sure if he's throwing it off track or anything, so.
Okay.
I had a question on a different topic, but if there's others not. I wanted to see if you could tell us more about the Nature Everywhere application that Taylor included. It's on page 10. Like building a team to develop a citywide outdoor equity vision and plan. I wasn't sure like who runs the Nature Everywhere program or what the timeline was, but it seems like something that would be good for Prague to know more about. It's at the bottom of page 10.
Yeah, I'm looking here and it's something that I'm not, one of the things I left off with Taylor, we started working last year with Thorn Institute to do some more work up here. I'm not sure if that's tying into this, but we have been trying to do more to tie that in. I'm happy to have Taylor maybe come to our meetings and talk about this program, but.
Yeah, I just think if the city's contemplating, an outdoor equity vision that's related to parks, recreation, and open space, it'd be good to
Great.
engage Proud in that and make sure we're up to speed. Any other items from the packet?
We've got one more, probably for Ben. There's the recreation revenue trends in 2023 on page 17. It says here that the current revenue projections show the the year still finishing around 4.1 million, which is a couple $100,000 over budgeted revenue. So what are the implications of us being over budget?
Well, that's a good thing.
When it's revenue, it's a good thing.
Yeah, no, I understand. What are the implications? Does that mean that we have,
To retain that?
would we retain
No.
that? So what does it happen? So what are the implications? Yeah. that's
It means the general budget does slightly better, but it does,
Okay.
as we go forward and we come around to budget again, that allows us to have more flexibility potentially.
To appropriate money in the future to bring some of that 1.1 million that was reduced during COVID.
Right,
Very nice.
right.
So we're slowly getting some of that money back, but we have to hit our revenue amounts. The other challenge, and Ben, I don't know if you want to talk about, is cost recovery by financial policy is at least 80%. For the proposed 24 budget, it's only at about 71.5. So we have to keep getting those revenue amounts up to start balancing things back out. And it got skewed by COVID, and then the cost of doing business jumped up with the cost of salaries and wages that we haven't ever caught up with that.
Yeah, so that decreases our flexibility, that fact that we're not at 80%. We're actually operating at right about 80% right this minute. And we hope to finish the year like that. But even the budgeted amount doesn't put us at 80%. We need to be at that 80% plus, and then have the revenues also to allow for that appropriation ability, that flexibility level that we'd actually become fairly accustomed to over all my time here up until COVID. So it is not available money
Okay.
as much as we would like it to be
Does
to
it
utilize some things.
Change anything for 2024, or would not really to a definite effect?
It's too early to.
Yeah.
Early definite effect.
Yeah, there are a few things that, depending on how we end up the year, the budget was very lean for recreation as it was for library and museum. And there are a couple things that we'd like to look at based on how we end the year. We're hoping that flexibility that we end with the 80% or a little better, that allows us to look at a couple things next year. We have been told we'll be able to do that. So
Okay. All right. Thank you.
it's going in the right direction, I think, but there's still ways to go, unfortunately.
I didn't see anywhere in that, sorry,
No,
do
go
you
ahead.
wanna add something?
I can do it after you finish up.
Is it on the same topic?
Nope, it's on your previous one with the thorn and.
Okay, why don't we do that and then I'll ask this other
Okay.
thing.
No, I just wanted to let this group, it was a really a question for this group. When I started engaging with Thorn, they were trying to figure out how to do more engagement within the county. They were working mostly in Lafayette. Longmont was kind of next on the horizon. Did I have Thorn present to this group at any point? So maybe that's what I can see between Taylor and that may be something that, talking about what their next step was. And then we really did, it's been a few years since I've been involved, so we really made that transition where Taylor's going to picking up that work. But it was a good conversation with Thorn Institute about how they really like to make Longmont the next spot they bring their programs up to.
And just remember, we have a history with Thorn,
I know.
that sandstone that always seems to get forgotten.
So they like to build on that too. I think you were part of this conversation when we first started doing this.
That'd be great. So my question was just, I didn't see, anything about the sort of construction. When will construction for the ice pavilion start for this season?
End of September,
In September?
beginning of October, first week of October.
Which is, our normal time.
Mm-hmm.
We will be hiring a new ice coordinator, Gene Scott, who had been part of the ice rink since we opened, has moved, and so she will not be.
She moved away?
Yeah.
She has now said she might be on for a couple of weeks.
Oh, really? Never mind then.
So
If we get her in,
Couple
then
weeks isn't gonna get you
then we
very
got
far.
her.
building part, having her expertise in the building part is helpful.
Yes.
But
She's
we
just
had,
such a nice person.
she is, and we're very comfortable with where we're at with the staff that we have last year that were involved in that and getting it built, but Jean's amazing, so having her for a couple weeks is a big deal to us, for sure.
Awesome. Anything else? Okay. Then I think we go next to items from staff.
I just wanted to make sure everybody knew, Saturday, we have Rhythm at Roosevelt Festival. 2 to 10, come out any and all day. The weather forecast right now looks very nice, so keep your fingers crossed. I keep telling you, the summer that never happened has been upon us and continues to be upon us, but I think it's going to be a great day and we're all really excited, so hopefully we'll see all of you out there. I'll be out there all day long.
Nice shirt then.
Yeah. That's a big shift for this year. I'm sure it's been a lot of work.
It has been for Sam, who's our event person. She's amazing and has done an incredible job and put together a really nice package for the day. I think people are gonna have a great time.
I just wanted to let everybody know that Angela Brill will be here next month. She is with Art in Public Places. It was one of the items we had on our calendar. We're a couple months late, but she will be here. She's confirmed it.
I was just gonna say, after Paige's comment about what we're doing, I appreciate everyone reading those packets and seeing what this work group's doing to begin with. If it's Taylor and the volunteer group and Stephanie and her team, we really have a great team working right now. And, what they're doing is amazing, and I think Stephanie had me sign paper today, so they keep me busy. It's been great. It really has. We're really starting to see stuff move along. It's been sitting there for years, and it really is. It's been a response from council and leadership that we need more people to do these projects, and it's been really great.
That was a perfect segue. We didn't even practice.
I know.
So this is something we just finished. So the pedestrian bridge at Spangler.
I think I signed on that too. So.
You did.
That's big.
All we've got left is a little bit of sod and some seating. We're just trying to coordinate that with the development next door, but otherwise it's open. So you would have a continuous trail now and it connects to Baker Street. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. We reused one of the old bridges that had been stored and put new fronting on it.
Oh, that's nice.
So brought it across town.
Oh, this is the bridge that's been saved?
It's
Yes.
one of
For all
them,
this
yeah.
time? Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Bridge or-
So, you know, it's a little different.
It's always good to take them in the summertime, in the
Right,
after
in the-
photo.
Right?
Yeah.
It's green and happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The before instead of when I was.
So,
I did have one other thing to dovetail with David. The recreation team, as of next Monday, fingers crossed and knock on wood, we will have 2 new staff members and we will be fully staffed for the first time in, I couldn't even tell you, years, 5 years.
Congratulations. That's
So-
awesome.
Hopefully that will hold for a couple weeks at least. We also have a really good team that's working really well together right now, so it's very exciting.
Awesome.
I will throw, just because Dr. Waters here tonight, the other piece, because we have some of this additional staff and still recognizing we can't do everything we want to do, is looking at those partnerships. So the Rose Garden, which has been something we've been striving with, we built volunteer programs around it, and still we kind of went through an exercise and says, what does it really take to get to what we want? And we probably figure it takes 50 hours a week. And, you know, we have a staff person who works 40 hours a week that's doing Roosevelt, Thompson, Collier, Roosevelt. It's just not possible. So the volunteers been a great program out there, but we're meeting on Wednesday with some individuals from the Flower Band to see if we can look at this as our partnership with another kind of iconic business in town to see if we can do some work up there too. So.
Any other items from staff? Items from the board? Awesome. We'll finish. It's like not even 8 o'clock. So yeah.
I'll move later in the meeting.
Do a second? All those in favor? All right, the meeting is adjourned.
Spouses are gonna wanna know